Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Chris. Today, I'm going to be talking about a few things, I suppose. I'm going to be talking about my progress at the project, and I'm going to be talking about dealing with relationships, because relationships can be really difficult. Why don't we start out with the progress? Yesterday, I made a lot of progress, but not as much progress as I had hoped. I bet that a lot of you can relate to that. The whole, you had a plan for yourself, and it felt realistic, but also kind of pushing yourself. And then you go out there and do it, and you almost reach it. And rather than being satisfied that, oh, I made it super far, your brain just starts telling you that, nope, you didn't reach the goal that was already pushing it. And so you can't be satisfied with what you did reach. I managed to sketch out everything for my website. I managed to create a wireframe. The only thing I didn't get to do was to finish my high fidelity wireframe. And I feel like that's such a minor thing. I can do that today. And sure, it does push everything by maybe half a day or something, because it is. But maybe that's just my brain overreacting. Maybe my brain is overreacting, thinking, oh no, you didn't do this one particular thing, so now everything's gonna crumble, you're gonna get delayed, blah, blah, blah. When the truth is that's not really gonna happen. I can still do those things today. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna redesign my personas a little bit. Because right now they look fugly. And I want to fix that up real quick. I just want to make them more in line with everything else. Make them a little prettier. And I know that that's not quite relevant, but it's still relevant enough for me to want to do something about it. And I might even add a few colors to my mood board, because I don't currently have colors. I was thinking of doing those for my style tile. But yeah, so it's an iterative process, and I can actually write about this. I also need to get started with my academic report, because otherwise it's going to be overwhelming. It's better to write half a page about the research I did than half a page about the personas I made, half a page about, and so on and so forth. I already have half of my report if I just write half a page about the things I've been doing so far. And I also need to use some more things, I need to use golden circle. Kind of need to answer the what, how, and why I think they are. Ooh, don't quote me on that one, because I'm still kind of new to all of these processes, all of these tools. They're pretty new to me. And I've always had a difficult time with things like that. I'm more of a worker. But yeah, so I made a lot of progress, and I actually made enough progress so that I should be able to be satisfied. And yet I'm not. And in part, I blame that on my brain just being a bit weird sometimes, and in part, I blame it on the people around me. And this is where the whole idea of relationships being difficult comes in. I'm really struggling to be in a relationship. On a personal level, it's difficult for me. Because I get hurt a lot. I get hurt easily. So it's not just a romantic relationship. It's any kind of relationship that I struggle with. It doesn't matter if you're my friend or my partner or my teacher or my family member. I struggle with relationships. And some people can respect that. Some people are actually really good at respecting that. But what I've found is that most often, not always, but most often, the people who are really good at understanding that are the people who are just as messed up as me. I actually do have a classmate that completely understands that my brain sometimes does weird things to me. She's even working on being a better person for me. And I think that that's really, really admirable. Because she's always been working on becoming better for herself, but now she's also working on improving for me. The other day, she started, because she struggles with kind of anger issues, and the other day she got really bugged by something, and she starts lashing out when this happens. But I've talked to her about that. I've talked to her about how hurtful that actually is, especially because I have a hard time letting go of an unfair treatment. And so the other day, this happened, and she did lash out a little, but then her mood kind of changed, right? She actually worked against her instinct, and 10 minutes later, she asked me if she was doing well. And that's when I found out that she was doing it for me. And we talked about it a little bit, and it was so incredible that someone actually deeply understood what it's like to go through the things that I go through, because it happens to her too. And I have been responsible for her feeling similar things. But not everybody is like that. A lot of people tend to think that we should all just accommodate to their worldviews. And I really wish I could. There is no doubt that I wish that I was normal, that I could just act normal. I wish I didn't have to go home and cry after my 12-year-old little sister innocently brings up something that I did some years back, where I got angry. But it does make me cry. It bugs me for days. And I can't let it go. It feels really bad, even though she's apologized and, we talked it out, and of course she's forgiven. She didn't intend any harm. It's still really difficult. And so, yeah, not everybody can deal with me. And some of the people in my life that it's most important, my partner is not always good at understanding that I have issues too. She's very aware of her own issues, and she tends to blame herself unnecessarily. And it's really, really, really bad, because she'll do something that'll hurt me. I'll try to share that with her. And then rather than understanding that, hey, you didn't actually do anything that's super bad, you just made a small misstep and that ended up hurting me. Can we please deal with that? She takes it as her being a bad person. And there's nothing I can do to tell her that she is not a bad person. And it's really frustrating to everyone involved. At the same time, she, as we've talked about before, she suffers a bit from fits of jealousy. And I suffer a bit from sharing everything. Especially things that make me happy. So I come home and I tell her about my day with other people. I tell her what other people do for me. And then she starts to get insecure because she thinks that she's not doing those same things for me. Because she blames herself a lot more than she should. It's kind of strange, actually. She's very bad at taking responsibility in the moment, but then afterwards she starts blaming herself excessively. So there's no balance at all. If only she could take a little more responsibility and blame herself a little less, I think we could move very far ahead. But there is no doubt that my girlfriend, to put it in terms that aren't nice, they aren't nice, and I don't mean any harm, but she's a bit of a mental case. I love her dearly, and sometimes you'll find yourself in a position like that. It just so happens that I am very much the same. I'm a bit of a mental case as well. I just have more insight, more humility, and more self-love. I know that I'm bonkers in the head, but I also accept that that's okay. Yes, I would still like to be normal. Yes, I still work towards becoming better, but that doesn't mean that I'm dissatisfied with where I am now. I am really satisfied with all of the progress I've made. I have improved a lot as a person. I have done a lot of great things, especially in the past few years. I've come far, and I'm moving even further ahead, and I feel proud of that. And so it's like sometimes you just gotta accept that you are not perfect. And once you start accepting that, you can move on. And accepting doesn't mean to look down on yourself. I actually sometimes get told by people that I shouldn't look down on myself. But the truth is I don't. I get distracted easily, but I can absorb more detail. I can't sit down and work on one task for long, but I can multitask like and like that. Examinations, we've talked about that before, that, well, examinations are a bit different because they do cause me some anxiety, but more like presentations in front of the class, for example. I just turn off my brain. Most people can't do that. That is a benefit of me. A lot of these things are a benefit of my ADHD. I may not be able to work consistently, but I can work really hard still. I just have to find ways that suit me. So I don't look down on myself when I talk about how I can't focus. I don't look down on myself when I talk about how I'd like to be more... I keep saying normal. I still don't like that word. Neurotypical. I would like to be more neurotypical. But that's mostly because I choose to believe that being neurotypical would allow me to live a somewhat more stable life. And had I lived a more stable life, I wouldn't be 28 years old, well, almost 28 years old, and still only just now starting to get an actual education. I finished high school at 27. And I know a lot of people finish later. And you know what? You go. I think that is amazing. No matter how old you are, the fact that you're going back, you're finishing your high school, getting that education, I think that that's great. And it could be that you worked in the trades for a long time, or it could be that you just were like me, jumping from thing to thing. You have to be proud of what you can do and what you're capable of. And admitting that there are things you can't do is not the same as looking down on yourself. It's not the same as dismissing yourself. It's, for example, it might be goal setting. I would like to focus more. I'd like to get better at concentrating. I'd also like to get better at handling my girlfriend's mental issues, because I have enough to deal with my own mental issues, and I'd like for her to want to get better at handling mine. It's one of those relationships when it's good, it's really good, but it often turns a little bit sour, and fortunately, I'm really good at handling those things. Like, most of the time, I actually handle it pretty well. It very rarely gets to turn into an argument. Especially recently, because I've been studying up on empathetic communication and things like that. Which is good for me both, like, in my personal life and at work. I managed to make my sister cry the other day by communicating empathetically. That's probably... Well, no, it's a quick story. She was having a really hard time with her math homework, and I tried to communicate empathetically according to what I learned from my courses, and she ended up crying. Like, I got through to her. And I think that's really great. And I'm getting better and better on that, constantly improving, constantly learning. And so I'll also be getting better and better at handling my girlfriend's difficulties. Look, I'm happy with her. It's just that there's a lot of negativity. And that does get tiresome. Like, it gets exhausting. I get exhausted when I'm surrounded by negative things, because I react to negative things. Like, they are stronger to me. Like I told you earlier, my classmate tends to lash out a little bit, but I'm oversensitive to people lashing out. So you gotta imagine, it's like, I don't even know what to compare it to. Just, if you imagine someone lashing out at you is them punching you in the arm, then it's punching me in the arm twice. Right? Like that's just the kind of thing. And I am not alone in that. There are a lot of people who experience that. Again, a lot of non-neurotypical people experience things like that, where pain is just stronger from whatever source it may be. So it's more difficult for us to deal with. And a lot of people will just tell us to, oh, just don't mind that. Well, we can't. It's not that easy. But we can learn to deal with it. I promise you that much. So if you've been listening to all of these ramblings, then I want to assure you, you can get better. You can get really good at this. And you can come very far in life. Wherever you are right now, you'll be able to reach further, or farther, I don't know, than you might think. And on that positive note, at least attempt at a positive note, I'm gonna leave you all for today. It's been fun talking to you. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye now.